Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is September the 20th of 2018, and things have been a little bit weird and busy in my life recently, and I kind of needed a very relaxing week on Weekly Manga Recap, but the gods of manga decided, no, there's going to be some weird stuff this week, but that's okay. It's just more distraction from the very boring monotony of my life. So I'm set for this. There's going to be... Chris, there's a freaking Fist of the North Star joke in this week, and I was not expecting it, and yes, I'm just so fatigued over the course of the week because we've been busy and I've been busy, and I want to take a nap.
So, guys, no Weekly Manga Recap today. This episode you're listening to is actually going to be an hour and a half of Nick sleeping from here.
Yeah.
And just in the background.
Chris, we've shared a room together. You know what I sound like when I sleep.
I don't remember that. Come on.
Remember, it doesn't go back 5 years or whatever it was.
No, all I remember is that I talk about cookie parties in my sleep and odd things like that.
I definitely didn't hear that one. That might have been something that Paul said, but whatever.
It was so you were staying at Paul's place. I don't think you were there, but I thought this story got around to everyone that it was 10 o'clock, so it was the other guys were already up and I was still sleeping, and rolled over and I was like, cookie parties. And Paul was like, what?
Wake up! I don't remember that, no, but that sounds like something that you would do. Oh, boy. I don't have a good transition to get into this. Do you have a tangent you want to go on besides that? Because I'm just going to jump into this otherwise.
I don't really have a tangent. We got so many series this week. There's
just
no
do
time
it.
for tangents.
We've got 2 jump starts to talk about this week, so we're just going to hit...
You know what that reminds me of? I remember also not having time in the past. It was 3rd grade. My teacher, her name was Miss McCloukowitz. She was originally Miss Mutch, but she got married halfway through the year, so we had to change her name to McCloukowitz. Anyway, that's not important. She was dead by the time this part of the story happened, but carry on.
Part of that sounded familiar. Recap portion of Weekly Manga Recap. It's My Hero Academia to start things off with, and there's a very weird moment of just quiet, disappointed in self-reflection that goes on at the start of this chapter. Because last week, Chris, the first skirmish test between classes 1A and 1B finished up. 1A was victorious, so we get Aizawa asking the members of his team, what did you guys learn? And most of them are, very hard on themselves. Kirishima's just I'm completely worthless in a fight unless they are actually willing to directly engage me. Suyu says that she's disappointed in herself because she wanted to basically just win without losing a single team member. Koda says that he needs to be able to actually give specific instruction to insects. And then Kaminari just I was awesome! Apparently he's in his I use too much electricity so I'm goofy mood. That's what Jiro says, but I don't know if he was that way at the end of the last chapter. I don't know, I might have just overlooked it. He does kind of do his yay thing later on, but whatever. And Shinso just says that he's frustrated because he couldn't actually put all of the stuff that he'd learned into use. But Aizawa encourages him a little bit and says, hey, no one's a pro to start off with, and it took me 6 years to master the binding cloth. You're just a rookie, don't worry about it. But he also has something to say to each of the 4 members of Class 1A, and Kaminari is just your early game was awful. Does it mean, do you have to lose allies in order to actually get good? Well,
I mean, it's a true thing, though. In some things you need that kick in the butt to actually start playing,
So, for the rest of them, he's just okay, for the most part, what's going on. So, so you channel that energy, basically. Monoma of Class 1B, it was really impressed with Shinso, and he's let's try and win our match later. Vlad King 1B's teacher basically pinpoints the problem that 1B had, their team had in the match, which was like, you guys didn't actually know who was the leader, and your teamwork was kind of a mess as a result. So they're like, okay. And all of the other members of Class 1A kind of take a cue from this, and they're like, oh, we should start like playing our strategies right now while we've got time ahead of the battle. And then we get the second match right away. And this chapter pretty much confirms, like, we're probably just going to see 5 matches, like, in almost full. Because the most important person on this team is Yaoyorozu, I think. So
Yaoyorozu, Tokoyami to a certain extent. There's been some teases that Tokoyami is going to be a pretty significant character in some ways. Like, he certainly had a lot of build-up in moments. So I wouldn't be shocked if Tokoyami, especially based off this chapter, plays a major role in this. Whether it's, being a major piece of their quick defeat or victory. Though I imagine defeat, just based off the logic of trying to build suspense. Although I was thinking about that, I was like, is this the kind of fight where it goes down to 2-on-2 and then, because they're going to do all 5 matches no matter what, and they haven't stated that there's any reward for the side that wins besides bragging rights. So it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, Class 1A could just win all 5, and it's like, yeah, we did it, guys. Like, there's no real need to get tense towards the end of it.
Right. It's not like there are actually stakes in this. It's really just like we're going to see how each of them fares against the other.
Yeah.
So, and it's all going towards, like Shinso and Deku's rematch is the 5th one. So, we get a conversation as the two teams are sitting off because it's Yaoyorozu, what's her face, Hagakure, Aoyama and Tokoyami for Class 1A, and then we've already seen, a good amount of stuff from Kendo on Class 1B's side, and she's accompanied by like the Mushroom Girl, the guy with manga panels and sound effects for a face, and the completely black-skinned dude, who we get to know a bit more of in this chapter. What's his name? Kurohiro. Okay. So Kendo is talking with Yaoyorozu as they set up, and they're like, we often get like thrown into the same box together, basically. People tend to, think of us basically as a duo, and it makes sense. They were both taken on as what was her name? The Snake Hero, whatever. They were both part of the same hero
mentorship program.
Internship course. And so, and there are a lot of similarities between them in the class. They're both the presidents of their respective groups, beautiful girls that are also very intelligent and get along with everyone. And I like that, they're kind of aware of this. And Kendo is like, so that really actually encouraged me to want to try and outdo you. Then the fucking highlight of the chapter comes because Kurohiro is like, Tokoyami, you're like me. And Tokoyami's like, your black clerk allows you to meld with the darkness and move within it. And Kurohiro is like, we are connected by a fate. And Tokoyami says, another who communes with the abyss.
Fucking nerds, man.
And Kurohiro is like, you're a fellow resident of perpetual darkness. They gotta get together and fucking compare their action figure collections to each other or something.
Write dark poetry against one another.
They form a band together, but neither of them can play instruments. Well, Tokoyami can, but they just like keep on talking about what they're going to name their band and then never actually make any music together. Kendo gets talked up a bit over in Class 1B's side because, the people who are just the Peanuts Gallery are talking, and Tetsu says, oh yeah, Kendo's great. She's, smart. She makes great decisions. She pulls the whole team together. And without her, we'd all been sucked into Monoma's orbit by now. And Monoma's like, hey. So there you go. The two people who will probably be important in this match for that side. And the match begins from there. Tokoyami sends out Dark Shadow. And at first they're like, oh, he's sending it out to scout for us. And he's like, no, I'm going to attack you all. But Kurohiro just says, all right, well, I'll be back. And we cut over to Class 1A side of the battlefield. Tokoyami is, kind of reporting what's going on. As, I guess, Dark Shadow psychically speaks to him. And then he hears like, they got me. And then Dark Shadow starts to come back towards them, and they're like, oh, okay, it's coming back to report to us. But Tokoyami realizes like, no, because it punches him in the fucking gut. Because Kurohiro took control of it with his quirk, Black, which allows him to meld with anything that is black. Also, he can actually manipulate the object that he melds with, as long as it's something that he would be able to move normally. So it's not like he can, dive into a black building and freely control it. But that makes sense. It's like, okay, well, it's like psychic connection over the things you would normally be able to handle.
So Batman would be in trouble.
Batman would be in a bit of trouble because he was like, all right, I'm gonna take you down. Oh no, my cape's wrapped around my face. Ah! Oh no, he pulled my underwear down. No! Tokoyami says that he is going to basically square off against Kurohiro, and says that he will use the technique that Hawks helped him create, Black Fallen Angel, as he whips off his cloak. That's the end of the chapter. So there's not a whole lot that happens in this chapter itself, but I do really like just the implication of like, okay, this wasn't just, we wanted to see what Shinso could do, and that was the entire purpose of this entire little mini arc. But no, we're going to get a little bit from everyone, it seems like. It's nice to get that confirmation. Look forward to everything.
I'll be honest. Because of Sadistic September and Reading Flame Eureka, I was really looking forward to it being the exact opposite of what you just said, where it was like, we're just going to focus on that Shinso thing and then we're done and then moving on. I am so fucking tired of fights right now from this series. But I won't try to hold out against my hero. I can dig this.
How dare Horikoshi do a tournament arc?
While I'm reading this 12-year-old plus series. 20-year-old plus, sorry, rather. I do like that there's the Black Fallen Angel, which is such a very Tokoyami phrase for this. So it's kind of interesting. I think he's probably the only character in this fight though that I really have any vested interest in seeing kind of what happens to him. This is definitely the jobber group in my mind, where I'm like, yeah, I don't think any character in here.
Oh, come on. Aoyama's a great fighter.
Yeah. Well, it's not that they're not great fighters, but more that none of these are really that significant of characters that I'm like.
But Hagakure's the spy, Chris.
Yeah. At this point, I've slowly stopped caring about the spy. All right. Yeah, that's all my thoughts, really.
Okay. From there, let's move on to Food War Shokugeki no Soma. This chapter has almost nothing to do with the previous one. Remember how Erina got kidnapped at the end of the previous chapter?
Fuck. I legitimately 100%, as we said to Food Wars, it's like, did I read Food Wars this week? I don't remember anything happening. They definitely didn't. I don't remember seeing any more of those guys from last week.
It's a basically completely inconsequential chapter in the grand scheme of things, because it's showing Soma's group, they're determined to pass the test. Okay, yeah. I mean, I always figured that they were going to pass.
Well, they really hammer it in on wow, it's such a tough challenge, and Ikumi has this whole fucking thing where she's like, this test is unfair to you guys. It's ridiculous. They put this pressure on you. But then, there's the big tournament. I guess we're not even really... We're just recapping it in our thoughts.
Chapter 279, Signal to the Counterattack. So this is what's happening in the chapter, as we now resume summarizing the chapter. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she they just have this big speech of no, well, this is what every generation has done, They always get a super tough challenge, and they do it. And on one hand, it's okay, cool. You're reinforcing the idea that the council is this very important kind of prestigious thing to earn. That once you get it, it really kind of almost says enough for you. Yeah, it's a tough challenge, but I'm in the council. We get these tough challenges because we're capable of doing it. This
is what's expected of me.
Yeah.
So it's not this is unfair. It's I can't betray the expectations that people have of me.
And it's sort of weird having it undercut by like Akumi being like, "This is ridiculous. I'm gonna talk to the manager," or something like that. I'm like, I kind of got it. Like, they sort of established early on, they're like, yeah, it's a tough challenge, but they're like, yeah, so did like the same class last year had to do a similarly tough challenge when this situation came up. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it does go a decent way to explain, like, hey, you know, all the members of the council are doing things. There's even a shot where fucking Alice is doing welding. And I'm glad that they had the foresight to be like, all right, well, she'll put on clothes for that, as opposed to everything else they've decided to do in their swimsuits. Like, I guess I can't have her weld in a bikini. That feels dangerous.
That would be a bit. I mean, as it is, they are already using power tools and moving lumber, and that's not the kind of thing that you should be doing while wearing Speedos.
Hey, and Kurokiba's not even wearing a Speedo this week. He's wearing trunks.
Also, I think that Takumi is surprised to see Alice doing welding or something like that.
He's like, she's doing work? Last time you were sweeping the floor for 7 hours straight.
I can't tell if he's surprised to see her doing that or the way that she's wearing the welding mask, which is not wearing it, but holding it up on a little handle.
Close enough.
The only other thing that I really took note of during the course of this chapter, besides Soma's whole big speech about how they've got to do this, is that there's just some asshole who's standing there like, we're going to defeat the council this way since we can't beat them in a Shokugeki. We'll make sure they don't get any customers or get expelled and then take their seats. It's like, who are you?
They give a whole explanation. They're like, yeah, it's this guy who's been challenging them for months and he keeps fucking it up.
It's like, do you understand? There are only like 6 of them or something that are taking the test in this year. There are other people in the Polaris Storm who would replace them. Okay. The third and final day of the test arrives, and the council group still hasn't actually opened up shop before then. They've got to make up all of their sales quota in a single day. And they open things up and they're like, oh my god, it looks like a piece of shit on the inside, but look at that awesome kitchen they've got there. And they've got 3 cooktops arranged in a triangle. And Takumi and Kurokiba and Soma are going to like all be cooking at different tables in order to produce a lot of food really quickly, I guess. That's it.
I guess maybe they're also going to be trying to like compete with one another or something like that. They're like, yeah, we got to have these 3 in there because they have the most practical experience. But I assume maybe there's going to be some element of competition between them or something like that.
Maybe. I don't know. It feels a little bit weird that you've got Soma and Kurokiba there, but not Hayama.
Yeah, well, I was like, I guess it makes sense. Hayama never worked at a restaurant per se. So
I guess that's true.
Takumi specifically worked at a family restaurant. And I guess Alice never did. Megumi never did. Megumi, rather. And, yeah, I guess that makes sense for why it's those 3 there.
I'm just observing.
They had to serve food quickly, I guess.
I'm just, kind of used to seeing certain, like, groupings of the 6 council members. Like, Hayama, Kurokiba, and Alice tend to be grouped together. Megumi and Takumi and Soma were grouped together during the team competition. And then before that, there's the Fall Classic where it was Kurokiba, Soma, and Hayama were the finalists. But whatever. Okay. So that's it. Yeah. That was Shokugeki no Soma. Like, it had no connection to the previous chapter. It was actually, like, really weird. Let's move on to Eden Zero, Chris.
Yeah, Eden Zero, chapter 12, The Skull Fairy. And this is a very strange, kind of gross chapter. It's a lot of...
Kind of gross.
A lot of hero weirdness to it. So let's jump into it. So last time, the evil spaceship was pulling them in, and it's Elsie Crimson, whatever the fuck her name is, Schmarlet, Schmerza, whatever we're calling her. And they're getting pulled in by like the tether ray, whatever you call those. The what's the name for those? Tractor beam. There you go. It's pulling them in, and they get like a message from Elsie, who takes over their entire control system. And she's like, yes, I'm very impressed that you made it through that barrier. You must have a skilled captain, but he also must be an idiot to have gotten caught into our trap so easily. And Shiki asks, like, what do you want? They're like, oh, well, we're going to plunder you, of course. You all belong to me now. We're going to specifically, like, tether you guys all the way over to the planet Gilst, where you are to be sold. So you're going to be human trafficked. They note that there's specifically an eccentric old geezer who loves kids just like you, especially the girl. Weiss immediately tries to defect ships, which I was very pleased with. He's a shithead who's be like, I don't like these people. Can I join you instead?
I do like that she said, how could you possibly betray your friends like this? And Weiss is just like, I'm not your friend. What are you talking about?
Then Rebecca has a visual of her being like forced to film videos of herself. It's weird kink shit. I'm not going to get into it. Shiki counter proposes by saying, I'm going to plunder your ship then. And everyone's shocked. What a crazy suggestion. And she says, all right, fine. You know, I'll tell you exactly where to reach me. Go here, 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 and that's where you'll find me. Boop. And then she turns off the TV. I think I skipped over the scene too where Pino was like, Rebecca, your bladder's at maximum fucking tension. You're gonna piss yourself any minute. So Weiss, having been turned down in his immediate offer to try to betray the group, is like, I guess I'll stay with you guys. Since the alternative is slavery.
I guess we're good friends again now.
Yeah. Although he jokes that when he succeeds, he'll make her his prisoner, and then she's gonna get punished. He.
So that's like 4 now that we're on weird instances of
fetishy stuff. Yeah. So Shiki boards the ship, and this is kind of an interesting twist that we didn't see. The ship's covered in this weird biotic life, but like pustules, sort of like vines and tendrils and all this sort of stuff that just covers the ship. Like it's still, you can see a man-made ship, but it looks like something has kind of almost infected it and left a layer over top of it. And Shiki's like, whoa, what's going on here? And he also makes a joke. He's like, this ship's decor is really lame. But then he starts getting attacked by tentacles. And there are a bunch of them. All the people who show up have these weird tentacle arms and they attack him. He's like, space octopuses, awesome! And he beats him up. He's like, space is awesome! Then we cut to Rebecca, and she's being tentacle fondled. Pino even... No, never mind. That didn't. I thought that was another one of those. Like, she's like, oh, these tentacles are very erotic. I was just adding that into my own head. I was like, I'm surprised Hero didn't go there.
Mimetic. She refers to them as the mimetic parasite copycat S4.
Okay. Copycat. Fair enough. So Weiss sees that Rebecca is being taken and controlled by all these tendrils, and he's like, oh, wow, this is pretty picturesque. He's like, maybe if I lift up a little skin. He starts lifting up her shirt while she's, like, being restrained. And you're like, what? What is... Like, I know that the mood in this scene is supposed to be comedic to us, the readers, but for her, it isn't. It's just a weird thing for him to go to that level. But thankfully, it is immediately responded to by the tentacle monsters then grabbing him and pulling him away. But Rebecca's not happy about being put into all these erotic fashions, as she so deliberately states. And gets happy, turns them into the guns, blasts everyone away. I forget that she's British until these moments where she calls people Ducky.
Ducky!
Saves everybody. Goes to save Wise, makes the same joke about lifting up his shirt and be like, oh, expose a little skin. And then we cut away to Shiki, who shows up in Elsie's chamber. And she says, my name is Elsie Crimson, man who will surpass the Demon King. I have been waiting for you. And her face isn't like the beautiful Urza Scarlet face. It's the robot skull face. Ooh. So she's a robot, or this is a robot duplicate of her, or she's a robot zombie.
Let's be real, Chris. She equipped her death face armor. That's what happened.
I'll be so angry if that's the case. And we have to deal with it again.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, there were like... It wasn't that there was weird fetishy fan service in this chapter. It's that it kept on happening insistently. And each time that it happened, it's like it got a little bit worse by just by repetition, honestly. And it's so weird to see characters when they're in a weird situation be like, "Oh, hey, you're looking like you're in a bad spot. Maybe if we lift up your shirt." Ugh.
Yeah, it's like a weirdly gross thing for like. I get it. I get what they're trying to do. Like he's a bit of a sleaze, but like it's to a point where I'm like, everyone's gonna ignore this. He's gonna become friends with the rest of the group, and they're always gonna be like best buddies from here on forward. Like I get that impression, and like it's always weird that there was a scene where it was just like, I know you're being like restrained and like violated by tentacles, but I thought I'd make your situation even more uncomfortable by lifting up your shirt and threatening to take pictures. Like, what the fuck, dude?
And the fact that they very specifically, like, they don't just leave it at, Elsie saying, "Oh, there's a guy who happens to like young girls like you." It's like, ugh. But then Rebecca actually just imagines being a fucking slave in a fucking slave Leia situation with this weird old fat guy holding her on a leash and then demanding that she do naked videos. It's so weird and so specific, and it that it's just for the sake of just being weirdly perverted.
It's one of those things. So like, this is like, the thing is that it's such a common theme of hero stuff that it stops even like, it's just because of those things. I'm like, I'm fucking, because this happened all the time in Fairy Tail. It was like that one thing I always remember where Urza was fighting Evergreen, and Evergreen looked like she had the upper hand, and she's like, "Get naked and prostrate yourself before me." And you're like, why would she request this? This is such an odd, weird way of doing this that can't exist for any other reason than to be a kink. And that's what all these stuff is. Like, it's just like, why would Pino stop to be like, "It looks like you're about to pee yourself out of fear"? Like, is that, I don't know, is that supposed to be funny? Like, I don't know. It's just very gross. It's like the side of Hero's work that's always just kind of odd. Like, I wish he'd just draw porn, because I wouldn't have this complaint if it were just porn or like super fucking ecchi shit. I'd be like, that's fine. That's what this is. But when you frame it as like, this is our space fantasy story, and you're like, here's some like tentacle.
It's about adventure and friendship. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I hope I don't get put into a slave bikini and made to film videos on the internet. Like, I don't know. Just weird. Stupid chapter.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, he does it so often that it's no longer shocking. It's just gross. All right. Let's do our jump starts now, Chris. We're going to start things off with David, Teenage Renaissance. So this was the weirder looking one of the two jump starts that we got advertisements for, because there's a guy who just looks basically identical to the statue of David, that, Michelangelo's statue of David. Yeah. And here he is. It's about his life in not Louvre High School, but Louvre High School. I don't know if that's just a typo or if that's a deliberate difference in naming it. David has a crush on Venus, as in the picture of Venus where she comes in on the seashell. Yeah, that Venus. And David thinks that she's really cute, and they have to do the after school activities together. And he's like, I can confess to her. But she says like, "Hey, what do you normally do on your days off?" And David's like, I surf. And yes. Oh, well, would it be cool if you showed me some of your surfing? Oh no, I'm injured. I can't do that. And then she's like, "Oh, that's a shame, because we were going to go to the beach on our next day off, but I guess you can't join us." And he's like, "Oh no, why did I lie? I could have seen Venus in her bathing suit." And then while he's feeling sad for himself, Mannequin Peas shows up. That, little baby statue that's holding its, dick and peeing. That one. And he pees a lot, and he pees on David's uniform, and gets it all wet, so David has to take his clothes off, and he looks just like the statue of David. He does the same pose and everything like that. There's the Captain Jump logos covering up everyone's dicks. And he's like, I don't know what I can do. How could I possibly, confess to Venus? And Mannequin B's like, listen, you're up against an impenetrable wall. And if you don't surpass that wall, Venus will never be yours. It'll be hard. It'll be painful. You'll want to run away. But you know what? A man's genitalia is on the front to break through the wall that stands in front of him. And David feels strength in his dick and says, yes, I understand now. My eyes are open. I'll become the ultimate man. And then Venus is like, oops, I forgot something inside the classroom. Comes back in and sees David with his dick out. And he's shocked and he falls backwards. And they strike the pose of the creation of man. Then there's a close-up of the Captain Jump sensor that censors his dick. And Venus is like, you're awful, and runs off. And there's a bunch of jokes about just, using art references for, this series is stupid. It is so dumb.
This series is mind-bogglingly stupid. And it's wonderful, and it's stupid and awful, and I may love it. I can't tell. So, it's such an odd premise. So, it's something where when they told you the synopsis, they're like, it's a high schooler who looks like Michelangelo's statue of David. You're like, okay. And then it sets itself up as okay, so this would just be another one of those weird comedy ecchi series about a boy who's really horny, because that's what this is. The first page is him trying to look up a girl's skirt because he really wants to see panties, and someone interrupts him and he's angry because he's like, I'm never gonna get to see panties now. And it's so stupid with all the dumb art references in there. Venus de Milo, who shows up in her pose as though she were covering up her crotch despite the fact she doesn't need to because she's fully clothed. And then out of nowhere, Mannequin Pieces there, and you're like, is there an entire contingent of school students who are statues at this school? Does everyone acknowledge it? Why is he wearing Jotaro's hat from fucking JoJo? None of this answered. He starts peeing on him. All this work to get to this stupid joke where he falls backwards into the creation of man pose. I don't know, I'm impressed because it's so much work for so little payoff, and I'm somewhat enchanted by it. Part of me looks at this and I was like, I feel like this was an idea that Escape Time, that this was an idea someone pitched in mid 2000s at the Adult Swim block. They're like, hey guys, what do we have for a show? Someone was like, how about a cop who's just a butt? They're like, we'll get to that one. Anyone else? They're like, how about a high school student who looks like the Michelangelo statue David? And we just make a bunch of shitty art jokes. They're like, well, we can do one episode of that and then nothing more because that premise has been ran.
In true Adult Swim fashion, honestly.
And I feel like that's what this is. I feel like I don't want to read fucking Teenage Renaissance David next week because I don't know what it could do to get past this week.
It's the Black Mirror of Shonen Jump series now.
I only want the one. Now, don't get me wrong. This is very stupid. I don't legitimately enjoy
Next week on Viz's website, they're going to advertise Teenage Renaissance David as the Black Mirror of Shonen Jump.
Everyone's like, ooh, can't wait to see what this is all.
Quoted weekly manga recap.
It's one of those things that's become so bad, it's kind of good. It's just such a stupid premise that they were like, it's not enough we're a dumb premise. We're going to add an extra layer of stupid on top of it to overpass this gimmick until we can get to our stupid gimmick shots of this series. It really fucks with me that there's 2 statues in this place, too. Like, I really need to know how the lore of this world works. Are all of the, like, is there a huge contingent of statue people there? I thought maybe David was just the one. But he's actually apparently a statue because he breaks apart at one point.
I don't care.
Are they beholden to the lore that the art possesses? Like, is fucking, what's his name? Mannequin Piss, is he forced to always piss because that's what the statue does, or does he just choose to and no one stops him?
And what does he tell people when they ask him?
Like,
I have to pee everywhere.
Like, does the student body or like the organization, like the principals, do they not have any sort of like qualms about the fact that this one student is clearly walking around the hallways naked peeing on people? Like,
Chris, you're not on enough drugs to ask these questions right now.
I could change that. I could fix that real easily.
You could, but I'm not going to join you.
All right.
I'm just going to be like, no, it's still stupid, Chris. Let's talk about another dumb series, honestly. It's called I'm From Japan. This, I think, is supposed to be basically like Gintama's been missing from Jump for a little while now, and I think that this is kind of one of those things that they're trying to replace it with. It's certainly a comedy series, but there's just enough action in it that it could, I think, fulfill a series with that balance. Basically, this guy shows up at a school in Tokyo. He's from the Yamagata prefecture, which is a much more rural area. And he is determined to take his new school by storm and beat up anyone who stands in his path. Then this really weird red-haired kid jumps up to him and he's like, "Where are you from? Tell me where you're from!" And he proceeds to basically name every prefecture in all of Japan until he eventually guesses Yamagata. And guy from Yamagata punches him in the fucking face. And is like, "Yes, I'm from there. God, go away." He then is like, "And if you make fun of me for being from Yamagata, I'm going to punch you again." But the guy's just like, "Oh, where in Yamagata are you?" And he just like he just turns his head and starts pointing at his face. He's like, "Point to it. Point to where you're from." And he's like, "What are you doing? Stop that." Wait a minute. The profile of his face looks like an aerial picture of Yamagata. How would anyone ever make that connection? So he's like, "I would be from where your nose is." And so the guy introduces himself and says, "I am a master of the Todofu Ken style, Japan Hinomoto." His name is Japan, apparently. His name is Japan, Chris.
It's hysterical.
So,
it'd be funnier if you were a statue.
If it were a statue of David running up to people and going, "Where in Japan are you from?"
And then forcing people to look at his face and be like, "Where are you from on my face?"
Take the best parts of both chapters, the heart and jokes of one series, and the fact that one looks like the statue of David from the other.
Mex Rage in the chat asks, "Are there any Americans whose name is America?" Yes, there are plenty of people whose name is America. Yeah. America Ferrera is probably the most famous one. She was an actress, Ugly Betty, if you remember that show from probably like a decade or so back right now. But
so guy from Yamagata introduced himself to his class later because he's just run the fuck away from this guy at this point. And he introduced himself to the class as Tokyo Abiko, which I find it ironic that they make a big deal about locations and stuff in this series, and then he's introduced his name being Tokyo. Yeah, it's weird. He's Tokyo in Tokyo, but he's not from Tokyo. So he walks to his seat, and there are people who are going, "Who's up?" As he walks past, and they're like, "Hey, is Yamagata famous for its apples?" "No, it's tangerines." And then as he's walking past, he's thinking to himself, "Yamagata's famous for its cherries." City slickers don't know a goddamn thing. It's weird, but whatever. He's a prideful asshole from his hometown. He walks to the seat in the back row and he starts talking to this one guy. And he's like, who is the strongest dude in our grade? Because I'm going to beat him up and become king of the school or something like that. And the guy says, like, well, he hardly ever actually comes to class, but he's a martial artist who specializes in a certain fighting style. And here's where you can find him. And so he sets off and he ends up going to the place that the guy told him to, which is the headquarters of the Todofu Ken Club. Oh, right. It's that one place it's that one thing that the guy said that he was a master of. And yeah, sure enough, Japan is there. And Japan's like, hi, welcome. This is where we practitioners of the Metro Territorial pre-fisture fighting style are. Okay, I have to admit, when I saw the pun pre-fisture, I actually laughed because it's so dumb.
That's fair.
So he introduces the whole concept of it, which is basically in his travels, he took inspiration from all of the various different prefectures and cities and metropolises and stuff in all of Japan. And so he invented this martial arts style, which is based in using elements of things that each prefecture takes pride in. It is weaponizing hometown pride of all of the different places in Japan. Obviously, Akito doesn't really give a shit about any of this. He decides to leave and is like, this guy is a fucking geography otaku. He goes outside, and some random giant bald asshole suddenly punches him in the face. And, yeah, he's like, I am a proud city slicker, you dumb country bumpkin, and they get into a fight. And Akito gets beat up because there's a whole bunch of them there. He thinks he's going to get the shit knocked out of him until he dies. But then fucking Japan shows up and hits the guy with literally a cherry pit. He spat a cherry pit at him because, remember, Yamagata is famous for its cherries, Chris.
Yes. As is known in here in the the eastern coast of the U.S.
So Japan says, you should never make fun of someone for their hometown. The heart and soul of the Todofuken style is love for your hometown. And when you love your hometown, you will never lose. And they're like, let's beat him up. And he unleashes one of the secret arts of the Yamagata pre-fisture elegant art, which is Ondo dancing. Everyone is compelled to suddenly break into a fan dance because it's so powerful. It's not even a fan dance. It's like one of those conical hat things, and they're dancing while holding them. Whatever. So Japan does that, and then the guy keeps on fighting him, so he basically does this like Kamehameha attack. He channels a bunch of love for the location in Japan through his body, and his shirt blows off as he unleashes the power of the most powerful of the strongest mountain peak in Yamagata Prefecture in this giant black dragon thing, and beats the guy and forces him to like cough up blood and stuff. And then he turns around to look at Akito, and Akito sees that he has a giant scar in the shape of Japan all across his torso. For some reason. So Tokyo Akito is like, this is my name, and let me join that club of yours, and they shake hands. That's the chapter. So both of our jump starts were dumb this week, Chris.
Yes, they were very dumb series.
This one was considerably more my speed because I feel like there's a point to it, at least, and I hate gag manga, so.
I feel like in 10 years, when we're thinking back on jump starts, I'm going to be easily able to remember the Renaissance David person one, but I'm never going to remember the one where like, no, it's this guy. Remember he fought with Japan prefectures and stuff? I'm like, vaguely, but no.
I mean, you're probably going to be right, but it would be really funny if you were wrong, and this series takes off.
Very well. I feel like this is a tough sell to America to put in the U.S. jump, where they're just like, guys, they're gonna do all the Japan prefectures. all the cultural significance of all the places you don't know about.
Well, Chris, it's educational then.
Yeah, it's that. I'm too old to be learning things, Nick.
You can't teach an old Chris new things. So that does it for the jump starts this week. I don't think there's too much to write home about, and we can't even agree which one we like more. So there you go. Chris, you say that you can never learn about the prefectures of Japan. What else can you never learn about?
I don't think I can learn about it a lot, Nick, because I don't know if you've heard, but we never learn.
What? Oh.
That was the stinger for our I, Frankenstein-esque movie where at the end, after everything's happened, like, some people say that learning is about a state of mind, but we never learn. He looks over the distance and fucking credits roll as, let's say Puddle of Mud plays over the credits.
I never even saw that movie, so...
It's a bad one.
Everyone has told me not to bother, so...
It's pretty awful. Hey, so... this chapter starts off with...
just when you thought that Eden Zero was going to be the most fetishy series of the week, Chris. Just when you thought.
True. So, it starts off with Yuega's mom saying, like, oh, my boss, they want to open a new shot, and they want, like, extra staff. I want to go, but, you know, I have another job to do. And Yuega's like, I'll do it then. Don't worry, I'll manage my study and everything. So we cut over, and Yuega's in a big bunny costume, just like not that long ago. And it's the same woman from before, the one who got him to wear that outfit when he was working at a lingerie stop. And he even notes, like, what happened to the lingerie store. And she's like, I passed it on so I could start something new. Why? Because I'm tired of lingerie. And she's very upbeat about this. So she's like, all right, you just hand out these flyers. And he's like, well, I guess it's going to be okay. She even fixed the zipper so I can take the helmet off anytime I need to. This time it's not going to go bad. Immediately, boss, your daughter has a fever again. I like how the person says again, as though they're aware of the fact that these are two instances connected by fate.
I also took my staff with me when I left that store.
So she's like, I'll be there, and just books it. Is gone. They're like, we need someone else. So obviously they grab them. And this is a massage parlor. And he's like, I don't know why they're doing this. I have 0 qualifications. Well, I just hope I'm with someone not too intimidating. And of course, it's Kirisu at the start. And she's really sassing him at the start. She's like, prioritize the lumbar area. Hurry up. Don't make me wait. What are you waiting around for? He's like, oh, man. What am I gonna do? And he's like, I gotta do this for my family. I'm sorry. So the one coworker, the one employee's like, I better go check on the new guy. And she goes in, and Kirisu is crying out in pleasure because this massage is not just good, Nick. It is borderline orgasmic. And they're like, oh wow, you're really skilled. Do you have experience? He's like, no. Except for, I give my parents shoulder rubs when they were stiff, and I'm only proficient in the basic 14th meridians. She's just like, oh, so you know how this shit goes immediately. You're an expert.
He's the one.
And he's like, it feels nice to get praised once in my life.
There's a moment while he's explaining all of this where you can see Kirisu curling her toes, and she has apparently curled them so hard that, like, I think that her feet have switched legs.
Very possible. It cuts to the next. He's like, let me see who my next customers are. Of course, it's fucking Ogata and Fumito. And Ogata's like, yeah, I need someone to like help my shoulders because my back hurts for some reason. I don't know why. As it's like a shot of her tits jutting outwards. And of course, he's fucking great at that too. She's crying out. She's like, oh my God, I never knew it could feel this good. And then it's Furahashi's turn, and she's like, you better work on my shoulders, too, because my ample bosom also makes my back pretty sore as well. And he's like, all right, I'm not feeling anything, though.
She's like, oh, my God, that's such a relief. He's like, I'm not really doing anything. Okay.
Then he gets his next customer. It's Konami, and she's there for a foot massage because she's on her feet all the time. So it makes sense. You know, she needs a foot massage.
Yeah, it makes sense. And this totally isn't an excuse to work in a foot fetish at all.
Nope, natural. This is all perfectly reasonable. It's one of the other maids, actually, is buying it for Konami because she wouldn't normally get this kind of thing. She's like, reflexology doesn't work on me. And then Uega just kind of touches her foot. She's like, what? He's like, what's that? She's like, nothing. And she can't stop but like having pretty loud very stifled reactions to the fact that this is a really fucking good foot massage. And he's just like, you know, and Uega's there, so he's like being really considerate. He's like, you know, she works on her feet so often, and you know, I bet they get really sore. This isn't doing anything for her.
I better do it harder.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna have to put so much into it because she's not reacting at all, and she's just covering her mouth. And eventually he's like, I'm going to really go for it. I've never had anyone but my mom and dad take this much pressure before. And eventually she's tapping out and she grabs onto the helmet.
The ankle lock! The ankle lock!
He's got it locked in! Cut to outside. Where Takamoto has shown up. She's like, this must be that new massage place everyone's talking about. It opened today. I don't know how everyone's been talking about it, but everyone must be like, yeah, there's a dude who wears a bunny costume who will work the shit out of you.
People coming from far and wide. It's like, he gives the most orgasmic fucking massages. I have 3 more children after getting a hand rub from him.
So she opens the curtain because I guess they just went straight past the receptionist into the loudest massage parlor room.
This is the one that we want, clearly.
And they enter in as Konami has pulled off the mask and is squealing, I can't take it anymore, you win, have mercy. And Uega's like, no, I'm going to give you 120%. And the awkwardness happens. There's a whole thing where Konami's like, I'm out of here, this is weird. And I love the final page because after all this has happened, Takamoto's like, I mean, yeah, I want the massage. There could be this whole thing about Uega, you horn dog, and everything like that. And she's like, wow, you're really good at this. This is really nice. And I just love the shits of it.
You brought like 3 girls to orgasm by just you know, rubbing their extremities. So yeah, I want a goddamn hand massage.
Yeah, he's just like, man, I didn't mean to. I just, you know, got on a bit of a trip. She's like, oh, okay. But, you know, apparently that really hit the mark. Oh, stop! Who told you to stop massage? She's like, oh, I'm sorry.
I do like that she also says, like, huh, so I guess it was like this with Richan and Fuminochi, too. And Yuga just says, how did you know? I see. So you did get this from them, too.
I do love that she just guessed. She's like, well, it's Uega in a sexually compromising position. I guess he ran into every fucking person, every girl I know. Yes, this was a sexually kinky chapter, but honestly, it's so much stupid fun. I can't, this is a series I expect it from, because that's what this is. It's a romantic comedy series. I expect that to kind of be part and parcel. So, I mean, it's silly, but fuck, it still made me laugh. It achieved its purpose. Just like Uega getting those massages, even though they were very sensual, unintentionally, still got its job done. They still got their shoulders really stressed out. Or unstressed.
Worked out all the kinks.
Mm-hmm. And a couple more, too.
Hey, I will say that I had a lot more fun actually going through it for this than I did actually reading it on my own. So, all right, let's go into
that's while you're reading it alone. This is when you have to worry about people looking over your shoulder and be like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "No, it's innocent manga." You know, I'm just reading this story about this boy who looks like the Statue of David. Isn't that weird? I'm like, that little boy has his penis out. No, it's just a statue.
Why is he peeing on that other statue boy?
It does what he does, I think. I don't know the entire lore about this series yet, but I think they're all just statues who have to do what what they were carved into.
All right. Let's move on to Dr. Stone, in which nothing important happens. Last time Ukyo had a conversation with Sanku, and basically said he had found out what secret project Senku was having Yuzuriha work on, which is reassembling people that Tsukasa had shattered so that they could hopefully be revived. So he says at the beginning of this chapter, on one condition, I'll help you guys out and throw in with you. So Gen is like, on one condition, eh? All right, you should put me on the line, Senku. Or negotiating deals is a mentalist's forte. And Senku's just like, what do you want? This completely overrides him. And Ukyo says, my one demand is that nobody dies. And Senku's like, so I don't really understand you, Ukyo. Are you an idealist? Are you a nice guy? And Ukyo just says, nah, I'm just a coward. More than anything, I want to avoid a massacre between our camps. I was willing to overlook Tsukasa's nasty statue-smashing habit. The statues are just things, not people. Not reviving them isn't actually murder. I use those rationalizations to fool myself. I know I'm just a hopeless coward, but the thing is, I can't bear to watch people die. He actually is like tearing up while he says this.
It's like, I just really love statues. My dream is that one day we'll reach a point where we'll make manga again, and I can make one a statue. The main character representation, finally, for statues.
I'm going to be so glad when that jump start's gone. God damn it. So Senku's like, all right, well, you got a deal. I mean, my goal was that there was not going to be any bloodshed to begin with, so sure. We'll just have to change that, hopefully, to definitely. So Ukyo is like, all right, good. Oh, by the way, actually, this confirms something here. When Hyoga returned after attacking your village, he reported that his underlings were killed by your schemes. I can tell now that you weren't to blame. It was Hyoga all along. Tsukasa and Hyoga, though both are supremely strong, are fundamentally different creatures. I can't sit on the sidelines any longer. Sooner or later, blood will flow between them. This is an interesting thing because then we get to see actually something happen between Tsukasa and Hyoga at Senku's grave. And Hyoga's poking around and he's thinking to himself, this seems really suspicious. These footprints are really, really neat. It's like someone swept the whole area clean and then left a fresh set to make it seem like there was a single grave visitor. And so he suspects like maybe there was some sort of gathering that was happening here a little while ago. Tsukasa arrives then, and he's holding something in his hand, and Hyoga's like, oh, did you hear the same stuff that I did? And Tsukasa says, no. I'm here to pay my respects to our dearly departed Yo. And we get a brief flashback of some mook presenting Yo's eye patch stone fragment thing to Tsukasa. Apparently it wasn't stuck to his face. He was just wearing it for fashion, I guess. Because he just took it off really easily, it seems like. And basically he faked his own death so that he could get away because of his failure. He didn't want to, be tossed over the waterfall. He was just like, hey, just lie and say that I fell to my death while pursuing Chrome. That way, I'm the only one who's responsible for letting Chrome escape. He can't punish you guys because I'll be gone. That's actually pretty noble of him in its own way. So, so Tsukasa says, he has returned to the circle of life, and he names a whole bunch of other people as well, just may they rest in peace together. And Hyoga says, goes on, Yuki, who are they? And Tsukasa says, oh, those are the names of the warriors who fell to poison gas during the assault on the village. And Hyoga just goes, all right. You were there, dude. You watched them die.
I do find it to be a very interesting thing and somewhat notable that in the same chapter that Senku makes this deal with Ukyo that's like, hey, no deaths. That's not our goal. They didn't immediately reference the fact that, several characters are actually already died in this war, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if you can specifically say it's the Kingdom of Science's fault. It's sort of a self-defense thing, but it is still we did lead them to their deaths. We hope they wouldn't, but they did run into it essentially. It's it is interesting to see it addressed at least.
Senku's plan was that they would just be stuck at the top of a tree. And Hyoga was just like, because one of them said, like, maybe it's safe. And Yoga's like, well, why don't you go fucking test it? And he knocked them all off to their deaths.
Yeah.
So, but it is very interesting, bringing attention to this, that obviously Tsukasa's got some awful people working for him. So maybe not all of them are the most reliable and loyal. As well as bring up the point that their goal is to save all of humanity. So it's entirely possible that Tsukasa may end up getting the magma treatment and actually end up, after the end of all of this, working together with Senku. And in order to accomplish that, you gotta have to see this little bit of humanity from him, this respect for life that he has, which is consistent with the way that he treated Senku. He broke his neck, yes, but he also thought, like, I have to do this, and I regret that I have to do this. And he gave him every chance that there possibly was to back down so that they could avoid it. So he'll do it if he has to, but he doesn't like doing it, as opposed to Yoga, who's just like, what were their names again? Oh, right, I killed people. Back over at the Village of Science, they have continued working on the Steam Gorilla, and it now has an armored turret, so they just have a fucking tank. And Senku's like, we have a paper tank now! And Gen says, can it actually shoot? We don't have gunpowder. And Senku says, yep, it can fire something. We've got this leather rupture disc thing. We zap the water inside it to make it bubble, and then it allows that to inflate, and it shoots out of the top. He explains how it works, basically, with water pressure. And Chrome's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It even makes enough sense for me to understand. Except it'll only work once. But Senku says, yeah, well, I mean, we're only going to get one shot, really, anyway. So, basically, they established that they're going to go off and start the war, basically. And they're going to basically have to try and do it entirely with shock and awe. And in order to do that, they're going to have him working with them, the toughest guy around. His crazy stamina is his cheat code. And coming through the woods towards them, they see someone, and Kohaku kind of immediately knows. She actually says, even though we've never met, I actually know who you are. And it's Taiju, of course. And Taiju and Senku, after all this time, are reunited. Taiju goes up to his friend, and he grabs him, and Senku ducks the hug. Very quickly, and just, like, I don't even know how he managed to do that. He just kind of, like, bops him on the shoulder. Yuzuriha's there as well, for some reason, but she's there. We cut back over to the grave visit, and Tsukasa says, well, the only thing that I can really do for you, Yo, is bury the final piece of him in a grave shared by his comrades. He starts to dig it out, and, he found the cell phone. Bwomp, bwomp. He very impressively just kind of like yanks on it and rips the entire thing out of the ground in one go. And then we cut over to the Cave of Miracles with the miracle fluid dripping out of it. The tank shows up along with a bunch of different fighters from the Kingdom of Science, and they burst in to attack. And Kohaku commands everyone saying, hey, these 20 seconds could decide the very fate of humanity, because they know that this is a sneak attack, and the basically threshold for panic and acting instinctively is limited to only about 20 seconds before people recover. So it's a race against the clock more than anything as they start off this skirmish.
I always like it when you could put a condition on something like this, where now we sit here and we're like, oh, these 20 seconds are basically what decides it. What happens in these 20 seconds is going to be what determines what happens. It's always a very interesting way to kind of put a twist on a conflict, as opposed to just being like, who punches the other one until they can't get up sort of deal. So it's nice to have this extra layer onto it. I like having Taiju back and how he's like kind of leading the charge with his shield, how we have all of our characters kind of going in, like all the warriors we could see in different poses. You even see like I don't know if it's Jasper or the former chief. I can't tell exactly. I think it might be Jasper, but yeah, like all the like warriors leading at the front of the charge. Pretty cool.
And it's a really cool pose with the tank in the middle, the action shot of it firing its payload while everyone else rushes in. Good stuff. And like I said, I really like the element of seeing that, oh, right, Tsukasa's got a character. He's not just like an asshole. So, okay. Moving on from there, we are going over to the Seven Deadly Sins.
Yes, Seven Deadly Sins. This is going to be chapter 282, Gowther versus Male. And as much as a versus can be, I'm trying to save your life, please accept it. So, last time, the new and improved king was able to defeat Male, and Male was on a collision course to death. The commandments inside of him were going to go out of control and take him with him. And in that moment, Gowther decided to dive into his mind to try to save his life. So, that's where we're at. Everyone else is going to watch from outside. And we get the scene of Gowther approaching Male, who's like kind of sitting in these rolling fields. And Male explains like, yeah, this is where I would visit when I wanted to be alone. When Elizabeth found me here, she would comfort me. She was so kind. So as my last act, I want to imprint this view into my heart and then quietly disappear. And Gowther notes like, yeah, it's not what Elizabeth would want, though. And he's like, I have no right to live. You know, I've killed people. I tried to even kill Elizabeth. And you should go, because once I go, this world will go too. And if you're inside, you'll be gone. Gowther's just like, no, I want to save you. Male's like, I don't get it. I'm harboring impure dark powers inside of me. I've abandoned my friends and my faith. I'm despicable and loathsome. And then we start hearing these kind of echoing thoughts of that. Like, yeah, he's right. Get out, doll. Be gone. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be like the shapeless forms of these commandments, these evil, sinister commandments. But yeah, they all sound like they're like, yeah, get here. Yeah. Like they're just angry taxi drivers. Like, yeah, get out of here. Yeah, they're fueling into Male's self-hatred on this. So Male kind of gives his thing. He's like, yeah, first you give me this cruel fate, and now you expect me to live in disgrace. And I was like, I want you to live, and I want to apologize to you. He's like, then answer me this. What's the real reason I was chosen? And they explain, like, you said I was chosen to fulfill the equivalent role of Melodius on the demon side, but there were plenty of soldiers equal to him. Elizabeth, Ludishel, so why choose me? Why is it? And Gowther explains, well, the one who chose you was actually my creator, Gowther. And if these are your memories, then you must remember my face. We get this flashback to when Male was an angel walking through the field of battle, just eviscerating demons without even doing anything. Like, he just has this sort of like aura of swords around him that's just shredding people. And he sees one last demon, a young woman, crying, saying,
it's Gowther with boobs.
Yes, saying, Gowther, I wish I could have seen him one last time. And he's like, what? Why does it look just like you? He says, that's not me. The name of the woman you killed was Graliga? I can't tell if that's an S or a G from here. I think it's an S. Gralisa.
Her name was Girlther. So.
Yeah, he's like, anyway, that's the demon that I was based off of. And it was also Gowther's lover. And he thinks, why should I be the one to do this? Why? It's an unforgivable sin. Doesn't anyone understand how I feel? No, nobody ever could. Gowther's like, all right, well, I've done all I can. So you gotta drive them out otherwise. And it's the whole thing of all the commandments gathering around him saying like, you're gonna die. Yeah, we can have your body when you're dead, right? Yeah, yeah. And he's like, how foolish I was. The one who can't be forgiven is... And he shouts, get out! And shouts out all the commandments. They launch away from him. And everyone reacts as the light fades. And there's this moment where Gowther is falling from the sky now. And who, Nick, should catch him? Who should catch him?
Oh my God, Superman.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. I didn't expect this. Henry Cavill, man. I'm glad you felt good coming back into the role. No, it's Male. Archangel Male, though. So he's back. He's saved from the commandments, and he saves Gowther's life at the end. And that's the chapter.
Purely white wings now. He's been purified of the sins and stuff.
Yes.
It was quite a shock, honestly, to getting this explanation is like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, fine. But seeing this moment is like, wow, that is literally just Gowther, but with boobs and hips and bat wings. You didn't spend a whole lot on the design phase there, did you, Gowther Senior?
What I find weirder is like, it's like Gowther obviously couldn't control how he's created. I still think we have more questions about the original Gowther when he's like, I miscreate my puppet child to push forward my will. I'm gonna make him look like my ex-girlfriend. Like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, but this was a pretty good chapter. Nice to see everything come together at the end. It feels like, okay, good. I'm glad that they actually managed to save Mail in this way, because it felt like a pretty awful, waste of time or an effort, really, more than anything, because they went through a lot in order to do this, and several members of their group, the less important ones, I guess, died in order to pull it off. So,
yeah, I like it. I think it's a very complicated thing, and I think we need to see some of the resolution of that next week. As you mentioned, quite a few characters died in the entire struggle here. But I do, and this really has just turned to make what Gowther, like his arc has really turned around, that Gowther put so much into trying to save Mail. It's a very admirable goal to have been like, I caused this problem and I want to save you because I want to apologize for what I was a part of. And it's a very admirable thing.
All right. And from there, we're going to head on to the Promised Neverland, chapter 103, One More Move. So last time the kids showed up, Emma and company showed back up at the base and said that they'd found it. They'd found this thing that they were looking for. And we get an explanation from them. And they said, yeah, the golden water was found in the third possible location, and the temple was found in the second. And when they arrived at the temple, we see that everyone in their cloaks and masks used to disguise themselves and make themselves look like demons. They're like, yes, we did it! We get a lot of shots, actually, as they're doing it, seeing the mask, but also in order to make sure you know who is actually saying what. It kind of is partially transparent so that you can see through it. Gives me very iShield 21 kind of flashbacks whenever they would have the face masks, but then they would turn transparent so that you could see their whole face. Mm-hmm. So they go exploring inside of it. And we get a lot of shots of them just kind of like walking around. They also see some other demons gathered around there. One's hunched on a wall, and they just kind of just shuffle past him quietly. And they poke their heads inside of a tower through some bars that are keeping them out. They can't get through them, but they do manage to see inside, and they see like this bizarre looking altar with a statue and some sort of book, items laid out in front of it, and of course the same symbol of the eye that is associated with Kuvididala. Violet also finds a different altar. It's kind of one of those mummified monk kind of things. It looks like, with the way that this figure is posed. And they can't tell actually if it's a human or if it's a demon, because it's just this white, featureless thing. Emma says that it reminds her of blah, 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 or at the very least, the one that she saw in her vision. She even says, not in, the clothes aren't the same, the size isn't the same. It just reminds me of him. So. But of course, despite the fact that they're finding all this stuff, they still haven't found any information about the symbol, the seven walls. They don't really know what the hell they know what to look for. But Emma notices on the ceiling of this altar place is drawn in a way that it looks like day and night. It's the circular ceiling that has the sun on one half of it and a starry sky on the other. And they realized that they should go and check the ceilings of the other towers with altars inside of them that they were looking at before. And one of the towers has an image of golden water inside of it, and they're checking through them through each, and they're like, oh, if you connect all of the ceiling paintings of the 6 towers of this temple, they actually get an idea of the entrance and how they can get inside of it. And so they report this to all of the kids that they've met back up with in the present, and they're like, yay! And they've got 2 months now with all this information that they can actually manage to pull everything off. They can go to that place.
And to meet.
Hugo's like, all right, well, now you know that stuff. Okay, where is the entrance and how do you get to that place? And Emma reaches into a bag and pulls out a bottle of golden water. And she's like, we peed in this tonight.
All of us took turns. Thanks, Emma.
But before she can explain what's going on, suddenly Pepe shows up and he's like, we're under attack! And an explosion goes off at the entrance into the hideout. And it's, what was his name? Aaron, I think? Dark-skinned, tall glasses guy. He's with a bunch of basically look like SWAT team members carrying guns. And he says, I finally found them. This time we'll definitely dispose of them all. So nothing happens until a year and a half after the flashback begins, and then everything happens all at once, Chris. There you go.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. This is like kind of where I was with Promised Neverland a while back, where I was kind of just like tuning out of it. Mm-hmm. Where it's just like,
when they were in the woods, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that same thing of like, all right, let's see what happens. Like, I feel like the Andrew stuff could have been built better. Like, they introduced him and I was kind of intrigued, but then they time skipped away like a year and 7 months or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's just hard to find him the same threat when it's like, yeah, we've been avoiding him rather nimbly for almost 2 years now. Boom! Hey, now he's found us. It's dangerous now. Like, I don't know.
You think that like Emma's like, oh my god, Phil betrayed us! That bitch!
That fuck nugget! Alright, let's move on to Black Clover, page 173, The Battle for Clover Castle. I'm going to be 100% honest. I know I read this chapter. I'm not remembering any of it right now, so we're going to see what happens with this.
Not much actually happens, honestly.
So it opens with the king of the Clover Kingdom being really upset. He's like, what is the meaning of this, House of Vaught? I've been informed that your son, who's committed acts of violence in my Magic Night selection exam, which was to be a team competition, is suspected of being a rebel. And their family's like, no, this must be some mistake. Our kids can't possibly be this, it must be wrong. He's like, well, I can't have anybody who's a blood relative of mine marrying into a family that provokes rumors like that. And then there's a bunch of attacks happening. There's a bunch of magical attacks reported. So the king screams, silence! You people do something about that on your own. And they look outside. They're like, oh, hey, it's a Golden Dawn. What are you guys doing here?
Hey, guys.
Why are you all glowing?
Why do you all have pointy ears?
It's kind of weird, isn't it? And it's like this dude stands around just long enough to pull in some exposition. He's like, what are you guys doing? Everyone knows these castles here house the 3 great royal families behind us. No Magic Knight can enter without permission. So why are you guys, the Golden Dawn, all standing around here? And Langris, or whatever, Latry, I guess is his technical name right now, says, not my problem. And he scoops away a hole inside the wall and starts leading his troops inside. A bunch of people try to attack him, and the glasses girl bonks them aside with her compass magic. Very specific compass magic. Because apparently...
It's weird. It seems to be a form of spatial magic as well, because all of them launch different attacks, and she just like summons a bunch of compasses, which kind of deflect them.
Why aren't they mirror magic? I don't understand what makes them
Because Gauche has mirror magic, and everyone's got to have a different form of magic, Chris.
It's like, but there's people have same types of magic. They've confirmed.
No.
Oh, all right.
No, they don't.
I mean, Magna Swing has fire. He just baseball themes it. I mean, it's like 5 fire. All right. Yeah, they're like, all right, we're gonna leave the rest for you. The groups are gonna head in, and Langris is like, then I'll just keep going straight ahead and gouge them all to death. We cut over to Findrol, who's talking with Yami, and he's kind of like, all right, well, we gotta get there. Let's teleport there. So they teleport there, and there's a bunch of super intense mages there who turn and stare at them. They're like, ooh. And it's pretty tense. But whoa, there's some insane magic. Who's that? Oh, right, it's Jack the Ripper. Who I always forget is a character, and he's not been elfified, so he's on the good guy's side, but he's wild and crazy. Like, I wish there was a character in modern battle shonen that I could compare him to, but I can't think of one who's the leader of brigade who cares mostly about fighting and is wild and intense in his combat.
And has a scar over his eye.
Yeah. I just can't think of one. But, yeah, he's like, all right, well, this is what I call entertainment. I like slicing people up. And they're like, our hero, Jack the Ripper.
That is such a beautiful line to say out of context, just in general.
So
yes, Jack the Ripper will save us.
Thank God Jack the Ripper arrived. And he has this...
man. All these prostitutes were going to kill us.
Jack the Ripper, can you save us? Verily, as he rides by lopping the heads off of women in a row.
Oh, well, those weren't actually the ones that were attacking us, but thank you for doing that.
As he does it to Live and Learn from Crush 40 playing in the background. He's like, boo, like lands afterwards. He's like, am I too late? And they're like, no, you aren't, Jack.
Oh my god.
Holy shit, the Crush 40, like, Sonic the Hedgehog video game where Jack the Ripper is another, like, late game hero character is something I want so bad. Anyway, they go inside. There's a dude with a bunch of, like, shield magic, essentially, who's like, you can't cut this. And then he cuts it. That's the chapter.
Well, I actually want to pay a little bit of attention to this moment because you kind of like that is exactly what happens, and it is about as simple as you explained it. But the guy is like summoning this freaking diamond golem or something like that, and then he matches his mana to have the same properties as his magic. So it's like cutting it with a blade made of the same material, and that's why he's able to cut it through it so easily. But I actually want to pay particular attention to the pose that Jack strikes while he's doing this. Because the guy's like, you will not be able to cut through my gun. And he's just like, ah! Yeah. So happily slicing through it. If he had been drawn just a little bit goofier, this would have been legitimately a really funny moment. And instead it was just kind of unintentionally funny.
Yeah, but apparently... he there's nothing he can't cut because his blades transform their property to match the magic they're cutting.
So at this point now, with Jack the Ripper having shown up, we now know of basically a captain from every brigade and what they're up to at this point. The only one that we don't know about is that one Peacock's sleeping girl that was in the captain's meeting. She's like the only person who hasn't shown up in all of this yet.
Oh, I thought that was Rill for some reason.
No, he's
elfed. I remember that. But...
He's the deer.
Yeah, all right.
Aqua deer.
I forget. There's so many fucking battalions and they're all lame.
Yeah, this chapter happened. Yeah, there were a couple of chapters that just goes, all right, that happened. And so. One Piece. Let's finish things up with that one. It's chapter 917, Food Treasure Barge. Before we continue with the action that was going on with Luffy's group, we cut over to what Otsuru is up to. Things are really bad. in the town that she's in. People are starving. Children are crying because they're so hungry. More kids keep going to the river to suppress their hunger and are getting poisoned. So people are rushing over to Otsuru to get more antidote for it. And then we cut over to the far end of Bakura Town, which contains the Paradise Farm. All tons of food, barrels and barrels of presumably wine or beer or something. Water might even be, for that matter. And the food is so good that it's twinkling, Chris. The barrels are twinkling. Then they are, I guess, farmers or something like that. I don't know. There are people who are there's a guy who's like being paid some money, but it's only 5 pieces of silver. He's like, this isn't enough to even feed my family for a week. I can't even buy water with this. And the guy's like, no talking back, and just kicks him. We're then introduced to another Smile Fruit user, Speed.
It's worth noting that she is a headliner, and she thus has a unique name. Everyone else has sort of just been their animal plus man, but she is Speed, so she's not just Horse Lady or whatever they'd call her otherwise.
I do kind of like the way that she's drawn, because she is striking a pose like just a tall woman would strike, hand cocking on the hip and leaning a little bit into it and stuff. But she's a centaur, so then there's a horse's body going out behind that. Also, when she smiles, she has terrifying teeth because she's horse, so she's got the aura. A fire has broken out because of the stuff going on in the town. The buildings on the Hold'em's mansion's on fire, and the firefighting squad is very happy about this.
Like, yeah, woo, fire!
I think that they're like basically almost putting on an acrobatics act.
Yeah, well,
they're climbing the ladders and stuff.
They claim the fire. They don't put it out. They're like, this fire is ours. I like it. They're very excited about their job.
They love their jobs, yeah. So Speed is wondering what the hell is going on, of course, at that point. And then we just cut over to the confrontation between Hold'em and Okiku, Luffy, and Zoro. And not Okiku. There's Okiku, yes. Otama is the girl. God, there's too many O names. I'm getting confused with all of them. So Otama is still stuck inside of the lion's mouth, coming out of Hold'em's stomach, and we're actually introduced to the lion.
Can I note something real quick, Nick? So something Gray Bob in the chat just pointed out that all the headliners have card themes that are named after card games. I just now got Hold'em. I was like, oh, now it makes sense.
I've never heard of a card game called Speed.
Just like one of those games that exists. There's thousands of different regular playing card games.
So what you're saying is we're going to come across a character named Yu-Gi-Oh.
No, I think these are sticking with regular card game stuff.
Oh, lame. Right? Lame.
Maybe. Hey, Nick, he's a character in Jump Force.
Okay. So we're introduced then to Hold'em's stomach lion thing. His name is Kamijiro. And I like that his introductory box says Hold'em's tummy, Kamijiro.
Nick, wait a minute.
What is it, Chris?
If all of this group is named after card games.
Yes, Chris.
You know who might show up?
Who?
Jin.
Sure.
I mean, Jin, it makes... Hold it. I'm calling this now. If this happens, everybody goes back to this moment like, wow, Rolo T was so smart and cool. He's very handsome. I like him a lot. Look how right he was. Just
according to this, there is a headliner named Sheep's Head, and then there's X-Drake and Hawkins, so...
Hawkins has tarot cards and everything.
That's a good point, yeah. Okay. And then there's X-Drake.
He had his own gimmick.
So then, Luffy's like, give back Otama or I'm going to beat you up. And Hold'em's like, if you come here, then I'm going to crush her in my lion mouth. And he's like, yeah, you can't do anything about this. I'm going to take you hostage, and I'm going to capture Shutenmaru in the bargain. And of course, they have no connection with Shutenmaru, so he's basically just expositing at them. So yes, we know the ones responsible for all the recent thefts from the farm. Are you people in the Yatamayama Thieves Brigade? And given that you defeated Urashima even if by a fluke, I expect you're one of his more important henchmen. So then Okiku says, Luffy Taro, don't make him angry. And Luffy's like, well, he already seems pretty angry. We did wreck his mansion after all. But he's like, it would be bad, if you do anything, I mean, he's strong, of course, but what the townspeople truly fear is the man who stands behind him, the right-hand man of the Animal Kingdom pirates, Captain Kaido, a warrior named Jack the Drought, who sits in control of Kuri. And Zoro and Luffy are like, wait a minute, that's the guy who attacked Zoe and then got his ship wrecked by the elephant thing. And Okiku's like, well, I mean, yes, he was wrecked at sea, but he's not dead. He arrived here several days ago. Well, there you go, Chris. I think that we talked a little bit about that when he was introduced, like, maybe he'll show up again. Well, here he is, so. Hold'em is like, stop talking amongst yourselves down there. And he says, if you try and do anything, then I'm gonna do this. And he just kind of like flexes and starts to crush Okiku in his lion jaws, which pisses off Luffy some more. Speed shows up with lots of food. They've got this, I don't know why it has a sail on it. Because they're like, a boat. Is it a boat? Because
it's a barge, but
they carry it away they just drag it away with, never mind. So, Speed is there, and Luffy's like, oh my god, look at all that food! And Okiku says, yeah, there's a healthy harvest from a paradise farm raised on pure, clean water, which pisses off Luffy because, of course, it's like, well, so they're just hoarding it all for themselves, not giving it to the people who need it. So he's like, hey, Zoro, go get that stuff and I'll get Tama. Okiku's like, no, you're going to get everyone mad. And he's like, whatever. We cut out to the entrance to Bakura Town. Hawkins is there. Law shows up wearing one of those basket mask things that some samurai, wear. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he doesn't want Basil to recognize him. Basil says very awkwardly, who is that? He's mighty. Which I think that is meant to suggest he seems mighty familiar. But it seems like but the way it's worded is also like he's like, he's mighty! Whatever. Luffy wins.
He's too fast.
They go to kidnap Okiku again, and Luffy and Zoro immediately spring into action and move insanely quickly. One instant, Hold'em seems to have the advantage, and then he looks down and realizes that Kamijiro's been punched and no longer has Otama in its mouth. Luffy is running away with her under his arm. Zoro cuts through a whole bunch of people, sticks Okiku in the mouth of the Koma Inu that is allied with them, has the barge attached to it and having it drag it away, and they're running off with Otama and with the food. But then
they got away without having to cause any real big problem. Like, they didn't have to start a fight or anything.
Nope, they just grabbed it and ran away. But then Luffy looks down at Otama and is like, hey, what's with your cheeks? And she says, oh, he just tugged on them with pliers for a bit, but, you can't pull out my millet dumplings that way. And Luffy's like, pliers?
I love that Luffy gets to have the reaction most of us had when that happened. Like, Jesus, this seems really cruel.
It's one of the more relatable moments from Luffy where he's like, oh, fuck this guy. And he just drops her in the middle of the air. Not quite so relatable there. In order to go back towards Hold'em. And Hold'em is like, my lion belly can also spit fire! And proceeds to do that. Otama says, no, big bro, I'm fine. You saved me. You don't have to do this. Luffy bursts through the fire, which Otama thinks, of course, he's been burned to death, and now he's fine. Goes straight through it and uses his Red Hawk to fucking punch fire into Hold'em's face. He doesn't look so good at the end of this.
No, he does not.
Honestly, it's a very satisfying moment, though. It's very simple setup, and then like, oh, fuck you, and then he fucks him up. So,
what's nice is that it takes a little time. Like, this is something, like, I always like these moments. Like, there's always that kind of, like, famous one where Luffy finally punches the Celestial, because, like, everyone's been sitting there, and they built it up over, like, months of being, like, nobody hits these people. Like, I know they make you angry, but you have to take it, because if you don't, you will get just fucking obliterated. And they did, honestly, like, which is a cool kind of payoff to that. But it's nice, like, when there's moments happen where Luffy's like, fuck this guy in particular. Like, I'm not standing by and letting this happen. And this is something where they would do this in other series, like Fairy Tail, or not Fairy Tail, but Eden Zero rather recently did this when they were like, oh, Sabir, look how evil this guy is. He's so evil. And then they fucking knock him out, like, immediately. It's like, it's nice to get a couple weeks showing, like, a variety of stuff and, like, specific instances of it, and then be like, oh, and then here's just, like, comeuppance kind of deal. Mm-hmm. As, like, a character's like, I fucking can't stand this guy anymore.
Yeah, it seems at this point like chaos is going to start to really actually erupt, considering that people have actually all seem to have gotten to where they were heading to, with Law having arrived and confronting Hawkins, and, you know, Luffy punching this guy, while there are also some people there who can conceivably do something about it. But yeah, we shall see where this goes now.
Yeah, I definitely dug it a lot. Super fun chapter. Let's see what happened in Samir.
And that is going to do it, guys, for Weekly Manga Recap. So we're going to wrap things up here. Chris, what are your favorites this week? MVP and favorite chapter?
I'm going to give my favorite chapter of the week to Teenage Renaissance David. Now, I'm going to give it to... I think I'm going to give it to Seven Deadly Sins again. Trying to think what else would have really gotten it. And that's the one I think I had the strongest feeling towards.
Okay. I'm going to give mine to Dr. Stone.
Okay.
Fun chapter that accomplished a lot of different things. Character stuff, and also we have a tank now. So
that's true. I'm going to give my MVP then to Tokoyami. Like, it's not like a super notable chapter for him, but it's just such a funny, like, I love Tokoyami and I love getting more of him, basically. Even though I think he's only really relevant as, like, an MVP for, like, 2 panels, but it's still like, they're fucking so great.
I think that I'm going to give mine to Kurohiro on the other half of that. Okay. Because he's actually the one who got to show off his power effectively in this one. And it's a cool introduction to the ability. You know, he goes inside of freaking Dark Shadow and turns it against Tokoyami. I think it's going to be a pretty memorable moment for a while. But that is going to do it then for us. Guys, we want to thank you for joining us here on Weekly Manga Recap. We record the show live on twitch.tv/RoloT and smashcast.tv/RoloT Thursdays starting around 7:30 Eastern Time. But sometimes we do need to change things up, and you can stay updated on that stuff by following us on social media. He is at RoloT, I am at NickFTime, and you can also follow the official podcast account at WMR Podcast, all those on Twitter. If you want to help us out, you can, of course, become a Patreon subscriber. That allows us to create all sorts of fun bonus content for you guys to enjoy. We've been recording a bunch of stuff that we're going to be putting up from this week. Bonus episodes, and we did a commentary last week. We've been very busy getting all that content so we can get caught up and get it to you.
Yep.
If you want to check out our past episodes, all that stuff is available on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. It's also on iTunes and on our YouTube channel. Be sure to do the likes and subscribes and comments, rating, all that good stuff so that you can help us to ascend to the top of the hobby section and dethrone the bastard woodworkers who torment us so with their reign of tyranny. Or, you know.
You know what? I bet they don't talk about fucking statues that piss on each other, though.
Yeah. They can't get their woodwork to piss.
Ooh. No. Fucking roasted. Burr, 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 burr. Nick, roast alert. Take that, woodworkers.
That's an awful line, but okay.
You hear that? Nick just wish death on you and your family.
Anyway, I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's what I do.
Special thanks to everyone who's helped us out with the show, including, of course, Infamous Planet and Steve Man, our tire cut artist. Yeah, I think that's everything. And I believe that next week is the last week of Sadistic September, which means we're going to be talking about Flame of Recca next time, guys. So, yay.
Yeah, it's going to be some fun times. God damn it.
Are you going to make it, Chris? Are you going to be okay?
Yeah, I've actually made like a thing. Because for a while I'd be like, God, I really want to die. But I've made a strong statement, Nick. I want to live now to spite reality for making me want to die always. So that's me spitting in the face of you, reality. I'm not going to let you win. I mean, eventually you will. The slow creeping crawl of death comes for us all. But until then, I'm going to live the shit out of this in protest.
Good for you, Chris. All right. And on that note, goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.